This meeting is being recorded. Um, so I would like to say that, most of the people in here, I've actually had to speak in a meeting where everybody had their cameras off, and it really is kind of awkward. So if you don't, I'm not saying turn your camera on, but we try to share with one another, and it seems, anyway, just saying, you take it upon yourself to do whatever you like, but I'm speaking for Deb to see that she's going to share with us for about 50 minutes, and she's given a lot of herself. So it's up to y'all how you want to handle it. That said, I heard this lady who I don't know hardly at all. What I do know is every time she shares in another forum that I go to, I'm impressed with her sincerity, presence, and I am almost sure that she actually works a program. So just by the quality of her shares. So I'm hoping, well, I'm pretty sure that I've done you a justice in giving you Deb Mahoney from South Carolina.
Thanks, Dawn. I'm Debbie Mahoney, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm a real alcoholic, by the way. And, this whole emotional sobriety term is fairly new to me. I'd say I probably started hearing about it maybe 5 years ago. But I've been around for quite a while, and I got sober in 1986. And I'm certainly not saying that to impress anybody. In fact, I will warn you that there is no the time that someone has in the program has no relation to their sobriety overall, or where they're at that particular day. And I know that's true because I've seen it in myself. I've had my ups and downs. And when I was telling a friend of mine that I was going to be speaking at this meeting, I said, isn't it ironic that I'm speaking on emotional sobriety? Because I have been a very immature, erratic, compulsive, impulsive person in my drinking days and in my sobriety. I'm a slow learner. And it took me a long time to get where I am. In fact, I will tell you approximately, 5 years ago, a woman whose sobriety I really admired. She didn't have a lot of time in the program, but I really admired her sobriety. And I asked her to go through the big book with me again. And she did. But before she did, she said to me, she goes, Debbie, you've been sober for X amount of years. When are you going to grow up? And I will tell you, over the last 5 years, there have been people that have been placed in my surroundings divinely, who have been the most instructive, the most authentic, and the most powerful people in my sobriety. And not because it's their power, but they were able to show me how I could bring the power into my life and into my heart and into my soul, so that I could eventually get to the point where I truly, truly could be of service to others. And it would be really, really easy for me to tell you that if you want to achieve emotional sobriety, get with somebody who really knows the big book, go through the 12 steps, the directions for our recovery, and you will achieve it over a period of time. But I'm not going to let you off so easy. I'm going to agonize you by what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this reading of Bill's, and kind of talk about how it related to me in terms of the big book, and in terms of a person who's been through a lot of different situations in sobriety. So, I do know that we were calling it emotional sobriety back in the 80s. I can remember my sponsor talking about balance. It was balance, balance, balance. Do you have the balance here? Can you get balance? What do you need to do to stay balanced? That was the word. And I didn't understand that for a long time, but I eventually did. And I was able to, figure out ways where I could manage more easily and cope a little bit better and find some balance. The trouble for me was I couldn't hold on to it for very long because, the disease, it's, as we all know, it's cunning and baffling and whatever. And it works on me. And and more importantly, I allow it to work on me because I put myself in vulnerable situations mainly by disconnecting from my higher power. So I had to look up what is emotional sobriety, and the definition I found was being in the present moment, feeling my feelings, naming them, owning them, having humility, caring involvement with others. And Bill says that one of the cornerstones of alcohol recovery is a concept called emotional sobriety. The idea that alcoholics and other addicts hoping to stay sober over the long haul, because I can tell you that I don't think about it as a day at a time. I mean, I do, on a daily basis, but my plan is to stay sober forever. So we must, must is a huge word. There are lots of musts in this program. I think sometimes we forget about that. I like to remind people all the time that our big book is full of promises and musts and conditions. We're not really, it's not a free ticket, but it is a way to freedom. So we must learn to regulate the negative feelings that can lead to discomfort, craving. I like to always think about the bedevilments when I'm thinking about these discomforts, because I know when I'm in the bedevilments that I am not stable emotionally. And that if I stay in that stage or that phase long enough, I'm ultimately gonna get drunk. That's what will happen. In my case, in sobriety, when I fell off the beam or I saw my disease, I didn't pick up a drink, God, thank God. But, I became very ugly, and it talks about alcoholism as being an ugly thing. And I get really ugly when I'm letting my alcoholism run the show. Which reminds me, I think emotional sobriety is the direct consequence of a spiritual condition. The tighter I am with my higher power, the more emotionally stable I can become, or I have. So what is emotional insecurity? So we can't accept criticism and learn from it. Because I couldn't really, for me, I couldn't, if somebody's had a criticism of me, first of all, I'm going to get pissed. And I'm not going to learn from it because I'm going to have an attitude. I'm going to have those delusions that I know something. And consider my impact on other persons. I couldn't do that. I was I was self-centered. It was all about me. I needed to get my word across. I would intrude on others. I would be, I would break into conversations. I would inappropriately say things during conversations, other ideas of my immaturity and my emotional unstableness. So, and they can't plan for the future. I know that's true for me. Impulsive, interrupting, unpredictable, demanding attention. avoiding others, being bossy. And for me, in general, just trying to be that actor and direct, or the actor, the director, the producer of all things, all people around me, in an attempt to have things in be the way I want it to be, and where I'm going to be my most uncomfortable. And we all know that my big thing was I wanted to feel okay at the at somebody else's feelings. So, another big thing that was said to me at some point was, stop playing God, because I thought I knew it all. I thought for a long time that just being sober was enough. So that's a really vague place to be, and it's a place to be if you want to drink again, because it is not enough. So the big thing was I was reactive, and when those symptoms of alcoholism come out, like I can be even at an AA meeting and I can get angry at something that somebody was said, and I know that I can restrain myself from reacting to that, but I don't. I can just blurt out something completely inappropriate and hurtful to somebody. And it's I know, and we know probably that, those reactive behaviors, they're all, we're driven by 100 forms of fear, right? And I am driven by fear. That immaturity is driven by fear, and I react, don't you know who I am? Don't you know what you said is completely not true? That's not what the big book has to say, whatever. Some of you may know what I'm talking about, but, so the bottom line with that is, I'm an AA booze cure. I didn't drink, but I still lacked an emotional sobriety. I still struggled with fears, intense fears of, inadequacy, not being good enough, of being abandoned, not being liked, not being lovable, et cetera, et cetera. And, Bill says, since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. And I thought drinking was enough. And how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible. I go back to that person who's slamming their head against the wall, thinking the next time it's going to change something. That failure to grow emotionally and spiritually. And I could watch myself, I think they talk about that in the 10th step. I could watch myself do wrong things or bad things or hurtful things or however you want to call them. I'm okay with saying wrong. I do things that are wrong. And when I make amends, I have to tell people today that I'm wrong. I've wronged you. I've been wrong, whatever. I think that's a really strong word to use with people. I got to own my stuff today. But I could watch myself doing wrong things and not being spiritually fit enough to do anything about it. All those self-seeking behaviors, So how did I react when I had a resentment? Well, I would pout and I'd get angry and I'd get full of self-pity and criticize, gossip, all those self-seeking behaviors equalized immaturity. No, not emotionally stable. I personalize things. So once again, I just like to say that for me, this process was slow and tedious. You know, like I said, I got sober in 1896. And in 2009, I had an emotional and spiritual relapse. That's what I call it. I was an emotional and spiritual relapse when I found myself in my kitchen with my 3 grandsons, screaming at them like a crazy person, screaming them. I was angry that they weren't cooperating, and, they were acting like 3, 5, and 7-year-olds. And it wasn't what Debbie wanted that day. I wanted them to cooperate with me because I had pictured this lovely little day that I was going to have with them. So I'm standing in that kitchen screaming at those little boys that I love more than anything in the world, that I would give my life for. And I'm screaming at them. I will never know the harm that I've caused my children or my grandchildren. And that's okay. I get little tidbits of it here and there, and thank God, because, well, when I do 4th and 5th steps, I'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, that day I knew that something was not okay, that I was really a mess, and that I was behaving in ways that were objectionable to me, and I was harming the people I loved the most. So I said, I'm changing everything. I found myself a new sponsor. I asked to go through the book again. We didn't go through the big book. We went through the 12 and 12. And things got better. I was feeling more whole. I was more useful, and I was more grounded. But, I still was neurotic, like Bill calls it. I love that he uses that word because it is so truthful. So I started to change. I began to become more and more aware of my behaviors and the impact that it had on others. Not that I hadn't had some of this before, but the impact was much stronger, much deeper this time. And I became more accepting of my shortcomings and my behaviors. This is who you are, Debbie. In 6 and 7 steps, come to accept that this is who you are. When you're not spiritually fit, you are nasty, you yell at people, you call people names, you're harmful. You're very harmful. And you can impact people's lives at ages in which they're very vulnerable. So in 2018, so that was 2009, I had that meltdown, that spiritual relapse, I call it, emotional relapse. And I went on, things got a little bit better. I wasn't where I wanted to be. I knew that. In 2018, I experienced a very intense, almost phenomenal spiritual awakening. And at that time, I came to the full recognition that my higher power could do all things. I understood that in a very big way. So what I realized in 2018 is, even though when I came into this program, I loved the idea of God. When I saw the word God, higher power, whatever, I knew instinctively that had been missing in my life. And I had always believed in God, and I had always believed my God was a loving God, always. So I brought that forward. But what I understood in 2018 is that, I was still an agnostic at heart. I believed in God. I had some faith in God, but I did not trust in God, you know, in all things. I still held back on my, the things that, like my children and my husband, those were the things that I was not going to let God take care of. You can handle everything else, but I'm not going to let you have my husband, my children, because I know what's best for them. Right. And so what happened is, after that spiritual awakening, I I knew that he could manage my life with my husband and my children. I knew that he could handle it and he could take care of it. And so I began this whole process of letting go. And it was freedom. And with that freedom, I was able, I matured. I didn't have to be the producer and the director anymore. I didn't have to act like a nut to get what I thought I needed. And the people that I was acting like a nut to did not have to react to my behavior, and I didn't have to react to them. So things started to get really much better. So like he said, I did have some spiritual development over the years. I did grow in certain ways. I certainly had periods of joy and happiness and spiritual connection. And I could go long periods of time being really feeling awesome, really feeling on the beam. But again, like I said, I couldn't hold on to that long enough because I didn't have those things that I needed to change in order to be a mature person. I had been seeking and searching because I knew that no matter what I was doing, I was helping people. I was going to meetings. I was talking to people, hanging out with my AA friends, whatever. But that wasn't enough. One thing I came to understand too is that the fellowship and the program are two different areas. The fellowship is what hooked me into this, but it's really the 12 steps that keep me here. He talks about depression. I've had periods of depression too. And I truly, as a provider, I believe that clinical depression is clinical depression. And depression as a real result of alcohol use is something that's different. If somebody came up to me and said, I'm so depressed, I'm this and that, and oh, how much are you drinking? Well, I'm drinking about 18 beers a night. And I would think to myself, well, no wonder you're depressed. You got to get rid of that alcohol in order to figure out what's going on. And it's not easy to always tease out. But I have found, and I have seasonal affective disorder. So this month is typically not a good month for me. And I feel it? I feel it a little bit, but it doesn't challenge me like it has done in years before. It does help that I moved down south. I got to throw that in there. So, depression can be a real thing. If you're experiencing, please, I do say, see a professional person. Suicide is not something that's unfamiliar with us. If you've been around this program long enough, you certainly know enough people who have suicided, either as a result of drinking or in what I would call dry drunk episodes. So, so then Bill goes on to talk about his biggest flaw being his dependence on other things and other people. So of course I realized that, in the past that was a big thing for me. I was dependent. I was dependent on other people to make me feel good, to make me laugh, to make it easy for me to go place and do things. Or just to make me feel like I was worthy, lovable. And, I was often left out. So again, a contact with a higher power, helps me with that because God loves me today. just as he loves every one of us. And, I believe, we don't escape the humanness of our condition. I have had lots of periods of grief and painful experiences and loss, but I have a program today that I don't have to, that allows me to move away from that so that I can live my life free with some joy. Happiness doesn't come easily, but I can be happy. I feel that grief and I move up forward. My father died and it was probably the most painful experience that I had in sobriety. And, and I grieved. I never expected to have grief like I had. But, when we get sober, in the beginning, we're very raw, but our emotions, for me at least, seem to be much more intense, both, in good things and in the sorrow, the things that bring us sorrow. He talks about, his love of St. Francis. Of course, I love that prayer too, and I'm sure the rest of you do as well. A workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Well, how do we cut those dependencies away? Well, I don't know about you, but I cut them away by doing an extremely thorough 4th and 5th step. And I will tell you that the last 4th and 5th step I did was about a year ago. Every single 4th and 5th step that I've done has been traumatic to me. Every single one of them. This one put me over the edge because I had never done anything so thorough. And me, I have a default of, I can get into that morbid reflection, and which is not a good space, and we're not supposed to get there, but I go there sometimes. And, I sobbed and I would cry, whatever. And I was on a road trip one day, and while I was doing this work, and I'm not going to call it work. I don't like to do that. I'm trying to change my terminology. While I was following this direction, I literally called my husband and said to him, I was on this road trip. I called him and I said, I feel like I need to go to a hospital. That's how desperate I was feeling. So much rawness, so much ugliness was coming to the surface. And I warned people that could happen. So you have your list of people you're going to call. I know I have my sponsor. I had a list of women who were in my group, who are in my group. I have a list of women who aren't in my group, but in other groups. I have friends. I have those people, and I do call people. I've come to learn that I don't want to hang on to misery. I don't like it. I don't feel good with it. And I don't have to hang on to it because I learned there's another way. I have a program that taught me there's another way. So yeah, the 4th and 5th step are so important to us, because once we can get rid of all that garbage was what was making me so unstable. It was attributing to that immaturity, because I was, trying to cover all that stuff up in so many ways, and I would act chaotic and crazy, but I was able to, so I really feel like I have cleaned the path. Finally, I was promised I would never have to do another 4th step. Hallelujah. And I feel that that's true today. And it's true today because, in my 6th and 7th step, I became, I got to see the ugliness in everyone, in myself, the ugliness in me, and how I'd been harming people. And I became aware of that. the awareness is very painful. And then in 6th and 7th, I have to accept that. Going back to that idea of I have to accept who I am sober and who I can be dry or drunk. I was able to let go of any leftover control that I felt I needed to have, and I used to think if I don't control these certain things, everything's going to go to hell in the handbasket. Well, I've let go of those things, and my life is better than it had ever been. Nothing went to hell. And I think that I already thought that I had a spiritual development, but after my spiritual awakening back in 2018, I've never let go of God's hand. And I always try to think of myself as being in his loving arms. And, I say to myself all the time, so long as I'm in his arms, no harm can come to me, or I'll be able to handle anything that comes my way. I got this, with the help of a higher power and other women in my sobriety circle. With emotional sobriety. So where do I want to go with emotional sobriety? So I've been up and down all over the place in my sobriety, and over the last few years, that's changed for me because I was willing to listen. I was willing to take direction. I was willing to do the steps the way they're written out of the big book. And I was taught to practice steps 10, 11, and 12. And today I like to think that I live in steps 10, 11, and 12, because so long as, I think of the fourth and fifth step as the training ground for step 10. And the big book tells me that, I need to be vigilant. I need to be always watching for my thoughts and behaviors, because all that stuff that's objectionable to me can cause me to get into that, to move towards a drink rather than away from a drink. The 10th step is a very powerful thing for me now. And that if you do a 10th step every moment of the day, and that's what the 10th step is meant to be. It's something we're doing every moment of the day. We're vigilantly and constantly watching our thoughts and our behaviors. And when something arises, we immediately address it. Immediately. I said, I'll get a night's sleep on this. Oh, I'll wait till later. If it still bothers me, I'll think about it. I would put things off. I procrastinate. I don't do that anymore. I immediately ask God please take away that whatever that thought was, that behavior. I don't want to be that way again anymore. And then if I still feel crappy, I call my sponsor or another woman and I do a 10th step with them out loud. And then if that, and then I pray to God. I have a sponsor where when I call her, the first thing she'll ask me is, did you pray on it? And sometimes I say no. And she says, go pray on it and call me back. That's how important it is. And she has taught me that, pray first. Then if I need to tell my story, I can call her. And then she'll show me how my thinking is, so my thinking is off base. I have my disease is in my head today. It's all in my head. And if I keep it up there, I will not, I certainly won't be showing symptoms. I won't be showing a good emotional state. And then I go to step 11, where prayer and meditation. And for me, I pray a lot. And they talk about it somewhere in the big book. You know, we pray a lot. Prayer does not come hard for us in most cases. You know, I pray, I talk, I whatever. Meditation is something I really, that can be challenging for me, but I think of meditation a lot differently today. I think about meditation like, you know, when I'm hiking and walking, things I love to do, I'm not still, but my mind is quiet always when I'm in nature. It just quiets right down. You know, when I come back from hiking trips and friends ask me, well, what do you think about? You know, and I say, you know, usually nothing. You know, my mind is a blank. I'm just absorbing the earth. I'm absorbing the, you know, what's around me. And to me, that's a meditation. It's a time for me to commune with my higher power, to just be with and to listen. You know, things come up. And one of the things that I like to do that I think, you know, if any of you like to go for a daily walk or whatever, is I pick up a stone and I look at that stone and I said, this is going to be Amy. Let's, for example, say this is Amy's stone, and I'll put it in my pocket and I will do prayers for Amy that walk. And think about Amy, you know, or, you know, the things that we've done together, things like that. And that, it puts me in such a good spiritual place. And I feel so grounded that being in control doesn't matter to me anymore. You know, what I want is to be, you know, to be at peace and help others, you know, and I can have all that so long as I stay in good spiritual condition, so long as I live in steps 10, 11, and 12. I don't have to lie to myself anymore. You know, the delusions, I still have delusions. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not walking on water over here, but, you know, I have a different sense about my life today, what I want from my life. The big book has entirely changed for me. I am totally in love with the big book. And, you know, for me, I think there's one thing in the big book that I would argue with, or would have a difference of opinion. Let me put it that. But otherwise, I take it as the truth. If it's in the big book, that's the truth to me. There were parts of the big book that, you know, that I did find objectionable in my early years of sobriety. But the longer I'm around, the more appreciative I've become of them. I understand what the message is that I'm supposed to be getting from those statements. You know, this is really a very, very simple program, but we like, as alcoholics, we like to complicate everything. And I do that. You know, I can do that taking the dishes out of the dishwasher. Complicate it. Oh, well, I can stop this, whatever, you know, anything. You know, again, emotional sobriety, when I'm living a principled life. And that's a word that's a term that I don't think I would for a long time could have ever used for myself. I have named the year 2022 as the year of recovery, you know, because there were years in sobriety that I wouldn't even think to use the word recovered, you know, I wouldn't even think to use it. But now I know in the big book, it talks about being recovered all the time. Now I know that that's what happens if I do what is asked of me, if I follow directions. I think that is about all that I really wanted to say today. You know, and of course, the helping others. You know, I moved to a new town. You know, I've kind of changed my way with sponsees. I have one sponsee now who is willing to follow directions, and that's really an awesome thing to see. I don't have time for people who aren't willing so much. I will, I have to, I practice tolerance and love in all my relationships today. Um, I know, I've learned a lot of things about this program. I know that there are many ways that people can get sober today. My way or the highway doesn't work. You know, People have choices, but I do have a way in which I like to present this, um, to do the 12 steps with sponsees. And, it requires taking direction. I really don't use the word work anymore. In the big book, I think the only time the word work is used is when Bill's talking about working with others. Otherwise, it's about practicing, taking direction, terms like that. The real work is when we're working with others. So something to think about if you don't already understand that. So with that, I think I would say I've said enough, probably too much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all, and progress, not perfection. Thanks, Dawn, and everyone.
Thanks, Deb. I was listening to you and I was really thinking about what you were saying in relation to that my reaction to life when all my problems have piled up on me is I always say that some people need to stand up and other people need to sit down. I need to have a seat. Some people, we get real quiet and shut down. Not me. I lash out. So I guess the good news is I've paid a heavy price for not staying current on my whatever's the flavor of trouble of the year. But today I heard there's a name of a song, and the name of the song is "It's Not the Bullet That Kills You, It's the Hole." And I was thinking about that. Like I don't know how many bullets I have tried to fill that hole with, and all of them they just become more and more painful. But it's not the bullet that's killing me; it's the hole. And it just I've, like yourself, had to really take some hard looks at what created the hole. And, I can remember a time when you were talking about balance, when we were all being balanced, and everybody had issues, and just all a lot of lingo out there. But for me, through this time, and it continues, like it's a continuum at this point, the having to go through all the unknowns that continue to reveal themselves through COVID, through this pandemic, all these things, I have had to really say, okay, what's next? And be able to have it just coming at, for me, just coming at me. And I too have children, all it's coming at them too. And I live with that. And, most of y'all know I was sick last week. So, that's coming, all these things that are coming. And how am I reacting to them? Am I reacting or am I responding? And when it talks in here that my dependencies on the control of people and situations around me have now become a demand for security, I am going to step on the toes of fellows, and they are going to get angry, and it is going to be ugly for everyone involved. And my experience, and I was hearing what you're saying, is that when things get rugged enough, I don't need relief from I'm not looking for a drink, I'm looking for relief from the bondage of self. And that's been a really interesting area of opportunity for me through this pandemic, to start to really realize how deep that thing goes. And so in this workshop, we really have left it in the workshop mode to allow people the opportunity to share about things that may not be AA approved or sanctioned. And I know that at the place where I met you, we were doing a book study about unpopular studies in the last 3 steps.
Mhm.
And it speaks very much to monitoring where my thinking, feeling, and actions are. And through doing that, I've had it's broadened the depth of my experience around what is my reaction? What is the hole that the bullet's getting shot into? You know, what is the hole? So I loved your share. I love the fact that you spoke to that if I'm not really willing or courageous enough or connected enough to people, to God, to literature, to all the things, I'm not going to be able to find out what that hole is because it's too scary to look. And so I appreciate you talking about that. We asked the person that shares to call on a few people. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, I would certainly do it. But I'm going to toss it back to your court.
Well, listen, the one person I would like to call probably doesn't want to share, but I'm seeing her for the first time in a very long time, and I would love to hear her voice. So I would like to call on Barb Livingston. You're muted.
I am. Thanks, Deb. Debbie and I have known each other. Oh, my name is Barb and I'm an alcoholic. And Debbie and I have known each other for about 40 years, but we haven't been in the same city a lot of that time. Anyway, thanks, Deb. That was really great. You've given me a lot of kind of a pep talk to not work, but to, immerse myself in the program, which I think I do. I try to do it every day. I try to do the 10th step every day. And I say, please and thank you morning and night, but I could do a lot more. I know that. Probably could do a lot more with my sponsees. So I just can't tell you all the things I felt and thought because we have a history together. And I'm going to send you some dates. I'm going to come down there. I'm in Iowa. It's 5 degrees here. So I just want to say thank you. I have so much in my head, I don't even know what to say. So, and I have certainly have followed you through this journey. I think I can recognize pretty much everything you said. So I didn't know what it was, but I can recognize it. And I appreciate your honesty and your insight. You really have amazing insight. And I think if you don't have insight, you really can't do much. So with that, I'll pass.
Thanks, Barb. And I think there's another person out there I wouldn't mind hearing from, and that is Colette.
Well, hi there. I hope you don't mind, but I have the honor of being sponsored by Debbie, and she's been very patient taking me through this. My first real thorough 4-step that I've ever had. She's been very patient with me and has called me on my crap and my dishonesty, and I need someone like you, Debbie, to do that. And I love you so much, and I'm so proud of who you are.
Thank you. I love you too. It's up to you, Dawn.
Okay, I'm gonna take the wheel here for a second, and I'm gonna call on someone who I have been told to ask to share here. So I'm gonna ask him up front. Bill Donaldson, Minnesota.
Well, hi, everybody. And it's nice to see a whole bunch of friendly and not so friendly faces. Thank you for your share. All of these shares really touched my heart. I think the spiritual journey that I've been on goes much deeper than Alcoholics Anonymous. I took Alcoholics Anonymous and work in the steps, traditions, and concepts just to get me a baseline Bill Wilson calls it spiritual kindergarten, and I can relate with that. So these days of living, I've been sober quite a while, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm a happy guy. I'm not the same person. I have been completely transformed. And when I get to work with a bunch of new people, it becomes really clear how messed up they are. and they don't stop there. It's like, okay, God, how can I be useful? How can I try and encourage them to come a half step closer to the light rather than a leap like I used to expect? And these days, this gradual, I guess, awareness and growing into this spiritual life, it's not a theory, it's real. And I experienced so much joy from that. And one of the things that I like about these kind of speaker meetings, and especially this one, is there are people who are sharing their joys in sobriety. This emotional sobriety doesn't have to be dramatic and traumatic and full of all the crap that it used to be. My life now is boringly smooth. And I'm just so happy to have it smooth. So thanks again for your share. Nice to see so many friendly faces. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. And now I'm going to pick on this leprechaun dude.
My name's Pat, and I'm an alcoholic. I have little people following me. Debbie, I enjoyed your talk. It was very nice. I like the way you said, sometimes I even yell at people and I shouldn't because I have no boundaries. My first sponsor always told me, he says, Patrick, you were right in what you said, but wrong in the way you said it. And he said, you have no right to get well at anybody else's expense. Hard on yourself, easy on others. It's like the nuns, they'd crack you in Catholic school, and I go, I didn't do it. She says, well, think of the times I didn't catch you. It was just like a no-win situation. You weren't going to win. And I liked the way you talked about time. Time helps us more than we know. We slow down. It's like when you first come in and get to the fourth step, everybody's so, wants to put it off and is scared and afraid. But when they get done, they feel so much better and like they belong. And the 10th step is just, I messed up the other day. And of course I said, whoops, 10th step time, and dealt with it, and it was over. I don't have to walk around. Before I got to this program, you never got mad at people, you got even. And who wants to live that way? Gentleman that said, Bill, you're happily boring. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have to golf 2 times a day. Well, I was playing 2 days a week, and she said that was too much, so I went back to once a day. So it's, but I'm allowed to go out and do what I like and have fun. And if you're getting bored or something, which happens from time to time, if you've been around a long time, you can always work with a new person. That's what the program is. With Zoom, I love it. I've talked to more people one-on-one from a Zoom meeting, that I didn't know than, that's the way it is. When I came in, we did a lot of 12-step calls that they don't do today. You're not going to homes and different places like they used to. You can always do something to help another person. And I'll shut up here and end with, you may be the only big book anybody sees. Your actions will say, well, I know what he used to be, but that certainly doesn't seem to be him now. And you'll give somebody hope. You'll never know by going to the same meeting how many people go there just to hear you. So do I pass to somebody or just give it back to Dawn or Deb?
Dawn? Dawn, you need to unmute yourself.
Kathy Perez, are you available to check in with us? You're muted, Kathy. It's good to see you. I know you've been having.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really good to see you.
yeah, it's good to be here. My internet connection is not very good, so if it gets wonky and you can't hear me, just wave and I'll say I'll blow you a kiss. It's been months since I've had a chance to be here. Thank you, Deb, for sharing. Wonderful to see your faces. It's been a challenging couple of weeks. Talk about emotional sobriety. So emotionally, one of the things that I'm aware of is our community. I call you all my villagers. And so my villagers are the people that kind of hold us up. You know, we are the people that actually know what it's like to lose everything. And so when that actually happens, which it did for me in the Marshall Fire here in Colorado, it is, you know, I have a landing place. You know, I have I probably can't talk too much about it, but I am being caught and I have fallen through, and I feel loved and cared for, and I have more stuff than I need now. I have more clothes. There's this, those of us who've lost it all, little joke is that we now have, not really my style, but so all the clothing and jewelry and scarves and furniture and things that I've been provided, not really my style, but, and so now the new me is not really my style, but thank you very much. And I'm happy for the stuff. So I am, I heard last springtime, I was the last person in sobriety that seemed to know about Michael Singer and the Untethered Soul, but it rocked my world, truly. And I've been obsessed with it and been reading it and listening to it and listening to his lectures, and was in this remarkable experience this year. And it's surrender everything and resist nothing. So it's easy to surrender everything when you have nothing. And so resist nothing means that, okay, this is what this is. You know, and so one of the things that I know is that I also get to be a human, and I cry and I have anxiety attacks. And I had to go to Louisville today to pick up my mail, and I started to freak out because I thought I saw smoke. But it turns out that the weather was just misty and icy. Yeah, a big thing happened, and it feels big. And I feel caught, and I feel loved, and I feel cared for. And so I will depend on all of you to keep loving and caring for me, and I will probably stop talking. Thank you for listening.
Thanks,
So
Kathy.
good to have you back, Kathy. I really have been thinking about you, and it was good to see you here. Kreifels? I hope I pronounced that right.
Did you say Jackie?
I said Jackie Kreifels.
That's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie, and I am an alcoholic. And I, too, am from Iowa. And I was going to raise my hand up. Deb, thank you very, very much for talking today. You just said a lot of things that make a lot of sense. And that's what I love, is when I hear, well, you know, we all hear sense when we hear sense. It's like we all hear the message when we hear the message. But the one thing you said, and I've never heard this one for a very long time. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. My mother says that all the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, you've got to be from the Midwest. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And I thought, oh, God bless you. So somewhere we must have connected, our generations have. But I really do appreciate everything you said about emotional sobriety. And once it gets to, it's like, I feel like I go in stages through my sobriety. And I don't have very many stages yet. But I was thinking about when we were talking about, okay, we're supposed to be an emotional human being, but I act like a 10-year-old or a 2-year-old. Well, how emotional are those 2-year-olds? And then my mind immediately went to, where is their brain function at a 2-year-old? And then it's like, yeah, that's how I acted, you know? And I thought, just hang in there, Jackie. You're going to be okay. And I think it was Don, you had said something about at the beginning about different areas or things we've done for our sobriety today. And so many things. And I can remember, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I was able to attend a silent retreat, and it was for a faith silent retreat. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But then I attended a silent retreat for women in recovery. Oh my gosh. I mean, you talk, when we talk about emotional sobriety, we've talked so much about this silence. And when I am silent, it's just a beautiful thing. And I feel the presence of God, whom I choose to call my higher power. And I do that on an annual basis. And it's a recharge like nothing I've ever had. And I know all that's from my higher power. And, through recovery, I've heard in emotional sobriety and some other meetings, these different books that people read and study. And it's just like I see another little avenue, not necessarily a detour or a wrong turn. It's just, I'm going to stop and play in this yard for a while. Then I go on, I'm going to stop and play in this yard for a while. And I'm just very, very grateful to be sober today and to hear somebody else say everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And I'll share one more thing. It's beautiful that you shared that, because my mom says that, like I said, and today I got to spend the day with my mom for her 90th birthday. And so maybe that was connection from, I don't know, but you made me very happy. Thank you, Dawn.
Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm never calling you, but I'm going to call on you.
Some other Chris, right?
No, you, our fearless leader. He is so quiet as it's kept in the background, keeping the wheels on this bus.
Okay, let's see. Deb, thank you so much for your share. There was a lot of stuff there that I related to. I feel like, it was what you said about watching yourself doing stuff that's wrong, and then feeling like you don't have the ability to actually do anything about it in the moment. But I don't know, like, at least you're seeing it. I mean, I had a thing yesterday where I was I don't know, I'm working full time and I'm in school, and it's just, which is all sort of, I mean, I don't need to be in school. I have the same job I've had. School has nothing to do with my job. It's just sort of another crazy alcoholic, scheme of mine to study Spanish literature while I'm working full time as a lawyer. But I've just been like burning the candle at both ends and just finding myself really, not finding the time to, I mean, I'm still getting the meetings but I was in court yesterday and someone came up to me and was like, they have this ridiculous thing where it's like, we're all like, everyone has to sit out in the hallway and like sit on these chairs and sit far apart, but then the lawyers are inside the courtroom. And so everyone, of course, gets incredibly pissed off because they're like, I want to talk to my lawyer, and they can't come inside. And it was just like, someone came up to me and was like, there's all these people outside asking. And I just like, I don't know, I just found myself just having to go, about an hour later, having to go up to this person who I barely know and just be like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have snapped you like that, and it's just that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy how easy it is to just do stuff like that when you're not, I mean, even, I don't know. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but there's a lot that I connected to, and I'm working on a 4th step right now. So what you said about, and it was, it's been, I don't know if it's been traumatic yet, but that's probably because I haven't finished it yet. So, anyway, I think that's about all I had to share, but thank you again for everything you said.
Thank you, Chris. Deanna? Watch your face. Watch your face. Oh my God. Deanna?
Hi, thank you so much for sharing today. I'm going to take this off of speaker view so I'm not looking at myself. I hate that. Makes me nervous. A little distracted with my dog here, but thank you so much for sharing. I could relate to when you were talking about the when I first came into recovery, I didn't have a negative concept of God. I believed in God. I believed that God was a good God, but trusting and relying on God is a whole different story. And that it takes a long time to learn how to build that trust and really it's just something that I know when I'm not doing it. So but no, this is a great meeting. I love listening to everyone's experience, strength, and hope. And thank you for coming and sharing with us today. I'll pass.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. John L. from Dayton.
John, I'm an alcoholic.
John.
Thank you very much, Deb. That was wonderful. Related quite a bit to another gentleman who talked about being happy, and that I said for many years in the program when I would talk to people that I'm reasonably happy most of the time.
Right.
And it struck me about 8 to 10 years ago that wasn't true anymore. What was true is that I'm really very happy most of the time. And it's attributable directly to the information that you just conveyed this evening, that, you know, I gave up. I thought I'd given up, and I thought I had surrendered, and I thought I was working a program. And at that point, I was thinking all this. I was 25 years sober. And at the time, I was forced under disability by an employer because of a surgery that didn't work out very well. And that was, I knew that on a Friday, and on Tuesday, my wife asked me for divorce. And within 3 weeks, I was living in a condominium by myself. And I realized that I hadn't really surrendered at all. What I'd done is engaged my ego, and everything was about John. Everything was about, well, I've got this nice job, this nice house, this nice this, that it was all material. And gradually I began to infiltrate AA again. I had left AA for the most part. I was going to actually 2 whole meetings a month and had done that for 10 years. And I re-entered AA, and I think I made the first real surrender that I ever made. It took some time to take effect, and about 5 years later, I began to realize that I was a lot lighter and a lot happier, and I wasn't spending my time ruminating about much of anything. And like you on your walks, I didn't think obsessively anymore. And at that point, I knew I was really happy. And that's been some years ago too, and it hasn't changed much. Just for your information, to see just how happy I am, Leprechaun Patrick is my sponsor. Patrick and I have known each other for 41 years. Last December 5th, Patrick had 48 years in the program. And I remember way back when, 41 years ago when we first met, I know I was crazy. Pat would have to make his own comment about that. But we have each one another grown over the years. And now I think the line, and Patrick can comment on this himself if he likes, but I think the line has been blurred now. I'm not sure who's sponsoring who right now, but I can tell you that the sponsorship emanates from the 12 steps, and specifically from taking that ongoing inventory and stopping occasionally and thinking, gee, what did that mean when that person said that and I reacted like that? And then I call Patrick and say, what do you think? And he said, well, I think you're nuts, first of all, but secondly, I think it's okay to feel that way. And you know, I love Patrick and I love the AA program. And it is only I've found by living the steps, not just working them occasionally and putting them back on the shelf, but living them on an ongoing basis, that I really get the benefit of the program. I've got a thing up on my wall and I sit in this chair and do my morning program. And it's a sign that someone made for me very graciously. A professional sign maker made this and gave it to me for free. And the sign says persist. And persist means that when things aren't going my way, keep plowing anyway. And I'll end with this. I like Churchill's statement. When you're going through hell, don't stop. And that's really accounted for a great many things that has brought about a real joy in living in the program. And I'll pass. Thank you so much. And thanks for calling on me, Dawn. I believe you're muted, Dawn.
Bill K, Ohio. I'm calling on these Ohio people.
Okay, thanks, Dawn. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Deb. I appreciated everything you said. Emotional sobriety for me, it has to be caught in steps 11 and 12. You know, in my conscious contact with my higher power, and then my spiritual awakening and trying to help others. And that sounds it's easy to say, but hard to do. You know, I'm not always spiritual and wonderful, but on my best days, I'm a good member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's what I shoot for. You know, if I can just shoot to be a good member of AA, try to do the best thing and try to help a suffering alcoholic. We got a lot of them. There's a lot of them around, a lot of them that need help, and a lot of them, I mean, I don't want to give you what their definition of emotional sobriety is, because you wouldn't be able to, it would just not be fitting for this format. But anyway, working with others has been what saved my life. And it's what saved me when I got here. My sobriety is May the 7th of 1983. And right, time don't mean anything, or doesn't matter, right? But I ain't giving one day back. I'll pass.
Thank you, Bill. Deb, are you interested in having any comments before we get ready to close, if you have anything?
No, I can't think of anything. It was great to hear everyone share, though.
So we got a few more minutes, then I'm going to call on Veronica, because I know Veronica is actively working the AA program as hard as she can. So let's hear from Veronica.
Oh, well, Dawn, no pressure. Veronica, I'm an alcoholic. Well, I'm alcoholic. I don't know. I'm in there somewhere. You know, I actually don't really have that much to say, Dawn or Deb, but what I was just, Deb, you know that when you asked that gal to go through the big book with you, the one that had been sober for 5 years, and she says to you, know, Debbie, you've been sober for X amount of years, you know, when are you going to grow up? And I've been sitting here listening to people share, and I've been going, Veronica, you've been sober for X years. When are you going to let it go? When are you going to, you know, hand it to God? When are you going to, anyway, so I think I'm going to add that to my arsenal. Look, lovely to hear you. It's always, I love when I hear someone that, let me start again. The clarity is very calming for me. And that's a real blessing for me to hear. It, we've all experienced, you know, when we hear, and we hear a lot of it in this meeting, you know, truths being spoken and truths being shared. But I don't recently find myself very calm. So that's been a real blessing for me. I'm going through a bit of a, I don't know what I'm going through, but it's not terribly easy, and it's not terribly comfortable. And I have to really, the immature or the petulant part of me can come very close to throwing a lot of stuff away. And I'm not even talking about my sobriety, my physical sobriety, but I'm talking about words, throwing words out there. You know, I have to really be mindful, the judgments, I'm just, there's quite a bit of bracing going on in my world right now. Anyway, I guess really what I wanted to say is, so the calm is a very welcome relief. And thank you for all the goodies that you shared with us. Thanks so much.
Okay, we got time for one last person, and Mike R. of DC, because I'm visiting there next weekend.
Well, I certainly wasn't expecting that. This is my second time at this meeting. My former sponsor and good friend is Mitchell, who I heard last week, and who's been a dear friend to me. You know, I'm on regular sobriety rather than emotional sobriety. I have periods of time that I am, sometimes years at a time that I am sober, but I've been struggling the last couple of years, and I'm back in with 1 month today. It's interesting. I'm finding that I've always worked kind of an active program, but there are ways in which I don't know whether it's complacency or whether I start to sort of check the boxes. I go to meetings, but maybe I'm not as attentive as I should be. I pray, but my prayers get kind of rote. I network with people and they ask me how I'm doing, and my answer is fine or okay instead of really sharing. I'm not even sure I know how I'm feeling. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is that while I've worked the steps, I'm not always living the principles, the open-mindedness and the willingness and the rigorous honesty. So, I've sort of blown up another relationship, and I'm living in a recovery house, but I'm where I should be at the moment. I know this program works. I have a connection to my higher power. I remember there's a book, since I know we can go off of, we don't have to just do AA approved literature. Book, The Spirituality of Imperfection. And I love the book. And there's a part in there where the writer says that if we think of our higher powers, that we're hanging with a rope from our higher power. And then we do something that isn't sober behavior and we cut the rope. But when we reach back up to our higher power and tie the knot together, we are inevitably closer to the higher power. And that's kind of where I'm feeling now. I'm in a place of recovery. And I will be on this meeting every single week. So thank you. And I look forward. Have a nice trip to Washington. It's cold.
Well, we welcome you home. So in this meeting, our way of closing the meeting so that we don't have to listen to the schizophrenic breaking up prayer is for all of us to go into our inner self and say the prayer that most suits your recovery today. Thank you, everyone. We'll hopefully see everybody next week.
You will.
Thank
See
you. Good
all.
night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Deb.
you,
And
Deb.
thank you,
Everyone,
Chris,
good
in the
night.
background
Thanks,
there.
Deb.
Good
Thank
night,
you, Deb.
everyone. Hi, Don. Bye, Don.
Bye,
Love
Sarah.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Don.
Bye.
Thank you. It's a great
Dawn, are you
meeting.
gonna come through Richmond on your way to DC?
Yep, I'll be there Thursday.
Yay!
1 week,
See
I'll
you.
be doing emotional sobriety at my house in Richmond.
Yay!
Hopefully, if based on the way of the wind blowing in any
Right.
given direction these days. I might be from
Right,
Alabama, you never know.
right.
I mean, Dawn, I almost forgot to turn the Zoom on tonight, so you never know what's going to happen.
I probably should have the codes.
Nah.
Yeah. Well, you know
Then you'd
what?
have-
I
Who
think it's
knows what
pretty-
you do with my Zoom account? You might start adding all these extra features, and then suddenly it starts charging me $500.
I'm such a social paranoid. I won't. I have this thing about time not getting my information. I won't even get a Zoom account. I'm like, nah.
Well, my problem is I use the same password for just about everything. So I feel like I can't give anyone my Zoom account because then I'm giving them,
Now that
you
you
know.
said that.
I get that.
You could also
Modicum,
just change-
modicum of control.
Great night, everyone.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Hey,
have a good
everybody,
night,
thanks.
everybody.
I really enjoyed the meeting. I'll be back.
God bless.
Yeah.
I'll
Back
be
in
back as
business
well.
next week with the same time, same channel. Great speaker coming next week. Be one of the heavy hitters are in the house next week.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you all then. God bless.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Chris.